about the keys beyond what I've tried, but I've figured out a cadence anyway. Okay.
Yes,
so yeah, so most of what I know about the basic Zarya positioning, I mean, there's the overall strategy, like get to, I don't know, 60, 80 charge, and then use bubbles more defensively. And I've been working on trying to stick to off angles more, just staying like way behind cover. Something that I'm trying to do a bit more often. Otherwise, I don't have like a lot of like grand overarching strategy.
All right, yeah, but we'll definitely take a look at all that. But yeah, the first round or game is a lot of just gonna be analyzing and depending on how long this goes, and just seeing what are the main issues we're working with here. Okay, make sure you're bubbling that you're stepping in front of your Reinhardt so that he's not ending up blocking it with shields.
Yeah. Ooh, fuck me. Okay.
Oh. Yep. Try your best to make sure you're staying away from ledges. The only way that you're really ever going to get booped is if you're putting yourself near the ledge to get booped, right? So, like, I've played up against lower ranked players, and it's very easy to boop them because they just walk near the edge all the time. So, just make sure you're trying to do your best to distance yourself from the edge.
Yeah, that's just flat out. Okay, there we go. Our Zen is super aggro.
Barrier activated. Healing enhanced.
Rise up, buff.
Barrier is on you. Go. Don't hold back. The payload is ready for battle.
They are not really putting up any resistance here.
Alright, so far it's looking like you have very decent bubble usage, and you're actually getting very good bubbles off, but we're using it very infrequently. Make sure you're pretty much looking to use bubbles off a cooldown pretty much every time you get them, unless you're like super high energy like 80, right?
Gotcha.
Because a lot of times it's looking like we're kind of hanging on to them, and then even though we're getting good bubbles off, it just means that our energy just keeps deteriorating.
Yeah.
In between fights, make sure you're not chilling on point. You want to be pushing forward so you can maintain energy, potentially get picks. So right now we're just looking to keep our energy online. Because we want to be coming into the next fight with like 80 energy, not with 50 or 0.
Gotcha.
Alright guys, I'll support for the payload. Got it.
Thanks.
Right, so even now we can just be pushing forward, taking some space.
Fair in the room to the left.
Barrier is on you.
Okay, I think I already see one thing that we could benefit a little bit from, but we'll talk about it afterwards.
Alright.
Yeah, it's real nice of him to throw like that.
Not a lot that I can pair with. Oh.
Oh, just gotta make sure we're not running in front of that.
What the fuck?
I got stuck on a ledge. Trash.
Yeah, I don't know what I was trying to do there with the right charge. That was just dumb.
Shatter, Fair Storm. They probably have a lot of their ults, so be careful of that.
Come on. Oof.
Zarya, if you see a good grab, just go for it.
Yep.
I got a deflect,
Right. Good bubble usage again. Waiting a little, holding onto our graph for a little bit long. You want to make sure that you're looking to use your ult at the beginning of fights, right? The reason why is because, for example, if they use Barrage first, that means Barrage gets kills and they win the fight off kills, or they have a significant advantage. So we want to use our ults first, and then that means that maybe their ults don't even get as much value.
Keep out of mech.
Just looking for my Genji. Not actually really sure where he is.
On, are you ready?
That's a lot of ults.
Irresistible. I am moving the payload. Double beneath.
I
Nice.
got some. What?
Gravity kills. Bedtime.
Diva won't. Just leave the baby Diva.
Enemy is dead.
No.
I'm on fire. Everyone follow me.
The enemy is here. Experience tranquility.
Barrier activated. This will help. Locking on.
The payload is approaching its destination.
I'll block it, I'll block it.
Oh wow.
Uh-oh.
I don't know
we
how
we
that
get a
got.
clean reset. Clean reset.
Alright, so, yeah, make sure when it comes to cover, we're just sticking next to objects. We're not straying too far from stuff, because objects and corners and walls can help block and prevent damage. And when we stray from them into the open, it means that we have to run to cover to get to cover, and that means that in the time we die. So bomb is a very good measurement of positioning, as if you're in bad positioning, you die to bomb. If you're in good positioning, we see you 5 bomb.
Is that all you've got? Barriers on my go. Enemy radar contact. Do you even look? Lock it off. Get in there.
I got one shatter.
Bring it.
For it, I guess.
My shot.
And I shattered right after your shatter.
Hey, let's go.
Beautiful. Beautiful stuff.
Barriers
Nice.
on you.
Alright, so, we're gonna go over aggression and knowing when fights are won and lost after this game. But for now, just really make sure you're focusing your bubbles. With your bubbles, you're like half good with them. So you're very good at knowing how to use them. You're very good at that intellectual part. You are constantly using it when your people are taking damage and getting charged. So that's really, really good. That's better than most silvers. But the problem is we're using it very infrequently, which means that we end up losing a lot of energy in deterioration in between fights. And then the second thing we want to be looking to do is making sure that in between fights we're not just sitting around, but we're looking to maintain our energy. So that means that in between fights, whether you won the fight or you lost the fight, you want to just poke a little bit. That way you can get them to shoot at you and get them to give you more energy so you can stay high energy coming into the fight.
Birthday, old.
Gotcha.
So I went easy on
Yeah, I think I'm overcorrecting from an earlier phase where I was using my bubbles a little too aggressively. So I guess I'm just gonna find the balance.
Yep, and essentially you're always looking to get good tanking value and good usage out of them, and you want to find the balance where you're using them off of cooldown every time you get them, but then also trying to get good value every time you use them. So we can do well with that by thinking about how we're going to use it, like even 2 seconds before we get them, like while they're still on cooldown, we can be looking for situations to use it. So that's essentially how we can keep doing it consistently.
Get in there.
Nice.
Let's use right side. Yeah, that's helpful.
Give me a lot.
Ready for battle. Don't hold back. You're covered. Bring it. Barrier is on you. Go. Don't. Ready for battle. Maximum charge. Get in there. Charging up.
Just fall back to the point.
Experience tranquility.
It's annoying.
I'm anti.
Give me your best shot. Don't. Enemy in my sight. Allow me to repair the damage.
Nice.
Kill the Mahal. Get in there. Get me.
Keep at him.
Ready for battle.
Zarya, no perk.
Огонь по готовности. Feel the
The
ground.
boost is dead.
My secret and push up and plenty of juice. My secret sit-ups and push-ups and plenty of juice. My
All right.
Ah,
Whenever
I
we
should have just been
die,
behind the corner.
yeah, whenever we die, it's a really good opportunity to think about what we could have improved on. It's a good self-improvement place, right? We can think about what did we do wrong. What do you think maybe was the main problem behind that death?
I was a bit out in the open. With the bomb, I was relying on my shield, my bubble. Okay.
The other thing was that we didn't pay attention to where our team was, and we actually went in and were super aggressive when we only had like 3 people alive, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty bad at that kind of awareness.
Which that's something we're gonna go over because I've noticed that you're bad at it. So we're gonna go over that after this game's done, because it's a little bit more complicated. Make sure not standing out in the open. Like we did it again, right? Stand right, hug the corner. We'll go over that after this game's done. But you want to make sure that you're hugging corners so that we have the option to duck behind once we start taking damage.
Every shatter.
go. Barrier activated. You're covered.
Soldier going flank.
Oop.
30 seconds remaining.
Bring it.
There's no way that Zarya doesn't have grab yet.
Go. Block it off.
Experience tranquility.
Nice.
Barrier is on
10
go.
seconds remaining.
Огонь по готовности.
Ah, that was crap. I really misjudged the depth there.
Give me your best.
Yo,
Overtime. Get me.
Charging up. Nanoboost
You gotta-
administered. Barrier activated.
Oh, okay, I'm way out in the open.
Get in there.
alrighty.
Nice. Good stuff.
Good game.
Okay, I'm going to stream over on Discord if you want to take a look. Just give me
Yeah.
a second for Overwatch to get open here.
All right.
Real shit.
Let's see. Where's stop streaming?
Alrighty.
Wait, hold on. No, I gotta stop.
So, bunch of different things here. So first off, we're gonna do a big little I guess circle of, and we'll go over the kind of the where you stand and all these different things. So first off, bubble usage is actually very, very impressive. You have better bubble usage than I'd probably say than most platinum oh, sorry, was I talking because my microphone wasn't lighting up?
Last thing that I heard was I think you said like we're gonna go over.
Okay, yep. So my Overwatch, for some reason when I open up Overwatch, my mic just kind of cuts out. So essentially, what I was gonna say is we're gonna do a little bit of a wrap around, talk about all the different aspects of your kit, and where you stand, stack up. I'd probably say first off, your bubble usage is very, very good. You have better bubble usage and timing than most platinum players that I coach, so that's very, very good so far. Your tracking and kind of general mechanics is all right. I probably wouldn't say that's one of your main issues to work on. So then we're gonna get to some of the other areas where you probably can work on a bit more. So then. Ultimate usage we're going to go over. That does need some more working on. But first we're going to go over some other stuff. So first off, general positioning. So if we're standing here, right, enemy team are standing there. They're all shooting at us. It takes us 1, 2, 3 seconds to get behind cover, right? Now we're behind a position where now they can't shoot us. We can still right-click from here. We can still bubble from here. We can do a bunch of stuff from here. Except for from here, it takes us half a second to get behind cover. So we're in a much safer position, right? Because we're right next to a corner where we can duck behind it in a moment's notice. Now, in that time it took us to walk here, we died. Okay, that means that that is a bad position, or anywhere here is a bad position, because that is out in the open. The absence of cover is bad positioning. Good positioning is the usage of cover. So there's a lot of different types of cover as well, right? We can use slopes. We can use pillars in between right clicks here. We can use it to reload. We can duck behind it when we're low. Right? We use corners. Corners are going to be a major one. Objects like so, right? We can duck behind the payload like that. Okay, pillar, corner, doorway, corner, right? High grounds are going to act as natural cover here, as you know, anything along this is cover. If we take a look at an enemy, right, we just add in a crouch, now they can't see us. We back up away from the ledge, they can't see us, right? Same thing with our teammates here, right? See us, can't see us, see us, can't see us, right? So this high ground acts as natural positioning. It gives us really good off angles to see everything from, right? 1 second we're over here, next second we're over here doing stuff, right? So a lot of good angles that we can see stuff from, and then on top of that, a lot of the characters can't get up to us very easily. So high grounds a lot of the time can be very good for us. So that's general positioning. Just gotta make sure we're paying attention to that. I think that we actually weren't. That wasn't nearly our worst thing. There was a lot of other categories that need a lot more or more pressing matters, but that is something that does need working on far more than just bubble usage or mechanics. Now going over the bubbles we already talked about, I just want to see them being used a lot more frequently. Look to use them. So if we use a bubble, right, we have, when they're on cooldown, we can be thinking about how we're using our next bubble when we're like 3 seconds, 4 seconds to our bubble, right? And then we can bubble pretty much immediately after we get it, because we're already thinking ahead of time of how we're going to use it, right? So pay attention to your cooldown and be looking to use it much more frequently, because we do want to get good bubbles, and you have really good bubble usage of how you're placing them. We just aren't using it frequently enough. And once we get up to like 80 energy, right, that's where we can look to just use purely tanking bubbles, and you don't want to use it frequently. You just want to use it for if somebody's about to die, right? That's where, yeah, you got it right. You don't want to be using it like that once you're that high. But up until that point, you're going to want to be looking to use it much more frequently. The difference between left-clicking and right-clicking, it looks like we're a little bit blurred on that line. Left-clicking is going to come whenever you're in left-click range. You can tell if you're in left-click range if you're actually damaging someone. You can tell that by if you're seeing white marks coming out of your crosshairs, right? So you can see we're damaging them. We back up. We're not damaging them, right? Health not going down. There's no white bars, right? But if we get closer, we can. So that's about. So that looks like it's like about 16 meters or so, right? So we can damage, we can't damage, right? So if we're not seeing that happen and we don't hear the sounds, we don't see it, then we want to be swapping the right click. So right click happens whenever we're too far away. I think sometimes with right click as well that we were kind of like doing them individually, like we were kind of tap clicking. Make sure you're kind of holding it down, because that will come out at a faster pacing, right? So it's coming out immediately rather than us just tapping it. Because you have a decent amount of time in between each one, so you don't really need that much time to aim each of them, and you probably just want to be spamming it a lot faster. Now, there are some other times where you do use right click. The biggest one is when you're finishing somebody off. So when somebody is low, and especially when you're higher energy, this is going to be more applicable, right? But when somebody is low, we want to burst down that last little bit of HP, because the faster we kill things, the less time they have to get heals, to use tanking abilities, to use movement abilities, or to get away from you, right? So killing things faster is always better, because we secure the kill. So when they're low, we want to right-click melee, and that can burst damage them down all their health, especially the higher energy you are, right? So if you're close, then you can you add in the melee. Oh, I messed that up. Right-click melee, right? If you're further back, then you might want to just consider just purely left-clicking. If we're at a medium distance like here, we can just add in the right-click at the very end there, right? That bursts them down, makes them die faster, especially when we're higher energy.
So to think out loud a little bit to explain why I was maybe doing a few more right-clicks than would be expected. So the two things that I was trying to do there are, one, blast him into the air a little bit for the sake of tracking and predicting. I don't really have that down completely. Partly it's just it's just become a tick at this point, but it is something that I've been trying to do a bit more and more. I don't know the numbers or the effect or like really how effective it is, but I'm pretty sure that right click builds more ult than left click. So I'll often default to doing that.
Ult charge is for like pretty much every ultimate in the game. When it comes to to how it charges, is based on how much damage you're doing. So you get ultimates relative to the damage you're doing, and quite frankly, your left clicking a lot of the time is going to be a more consistent form of damage and secures kills a lot easier for you than just firing and right clicks. Now, you can't. I think what we're maybe finding it a little bit differently is that your right clicking gets some group damage in. So if people are all grouped up on a little tiny ball on top of each other, then yeah, right click might be a little bit better in that scenario. That's another scenario where right click is going to be used. But if we're just going into a fight and using only right click, that's where we're going to be seeing a big lack in damage output and consistency, and how easy we can secure kills. If you go and watch Grandmaster Zarya's gameplay, you're not going to see them in fights just going right click, right click, right click, right? Each of them have their own uses. There's no... For some reason, that's actually a misconception that a lot of people have for most primary fires in the game, right? People on Widowmaker, people on Ashe, right? They feel like the secondary fire or the primary fire doesn't really have a use, right? Where most of the time it's going to have a use, just in different scenarios, right? So we have to kind of think about when are those scenarios and then be using it in those correct scenarios, because it's going to be a lot easier to kill somebody if we're just tracking them with the left click. Alright, so moving on topics. So we'll talk about those. Ult-wise, I think... Actually, we'll talk about kill feed first. Okay, so probably the biggest issue I am currently seeing with your gameplay is your lack of awareness of what's going on around you in terms of who's winning or losing fights. And then therefore that affects your aggression. So when essentially how you can know whether or not you're winning or losing a fight is you watch kill feed. When you watch kill feed, which is the top right corner of your screen, that will let you know if we're up picks or down picks. When you're up 1-2, that is pretty much, or that's an advantage, right? When we have an advantage, we can be more aggressive, because when they have less people to shoot at us and to damage us and to tank and to heal, we can be more aggressive because we have the player count. When we're up 2 to 3 people, that is pretty much a one fight. At that point, we no longer want to be using our ultimates, because if we already won the fight, why use your ult? At that point, we want to be playing super aggressive, because we're looking to, 1, on Zarya, maintain energy, and 2, pick up stagger kills. So are you aware of the term stagger?
Yeah.
Or what it means? Yeah, so you understand what a stagger is. You want to look to push forward and get those kills so you can stagger them without letting them escape. So that's when you've won fights. Now, this also goes the exact opposite way. When you are down 1 to 2 people, right, they get 1 to 2 picks, 1 to 2 kills, that means that you are at a disadvantage. That means that you might want to play a little bit more passive, but you didn't lose the fight yet. Okay? Down 2 to 3 people means that now you've pretty much lost the fight. You don't want to use your ultimate in a fight that you've already lost, because it probably won't swing it back the other way unless it's like a humongous combo like a Grab Dragon, or it's necessary, right? Because there's going to be some fights where it's like last fight, for example, right? You don't want to hold on to your ultimate in a last fight. But most of the time you're going to want to hold on to your ultimate for the next fight. Means you also want to be looking, whenever you lost a fight, you want to look to get out if possible, especially on a character like Zarya, where you want to maintain your energy. If you feel like you're losing, back out so you keep your energy and you don't die. But if you feel like you're going to die no matter what you do, let them kill you fast. Don't try to stay alive. Don't use bubbles. Don't run away, because that's just staggering you further. Run the cart if you can, especially on defense. You running the cart will mean that you will be able to stall them out and get more time for your team. Now, The reason what this essentially why that's such a big problem for you mainly is because you're very passive at times and you don't really read the cues of when you should be getting more aggressive. And a lot of times, even if we've pretty much won fights or we're at a significant advantage, we still sit really far back. So really look to pay attention to when we're winning, when we have advantage when we're winning, and look to get aggressive from there. Now, there's a lot of other things that can affect aggression, right? Do we have bubbles, especially personal bubble, that will affect whether or not you can get aggressive? How much the reason why the 2 is the middleman for between 1 and 2 and 2 to 3 kills, right? The reason why 2 is the middle is because there's a lot of things that impact aggression, right? And whether or not you're winning or losing. Which team has more HP? Which team has more ultimates? Which team is in the middle of using more ultimates? Which team has better positioning, right? So if we can base our aggression off of those things, right? If we see that the entire team's 1 HP, we have bubble, they're in bad positioning, right? These are all indications that we can be more and more aggressive, right? They don't have ults. We're using a ton of ults, right? More and more aggressive, and a lot of times we're just being way too passive. And then that on top of that, that's on top of us not securing kills and getting damage in, and it's also affecting our energy levels on Zarya. The final thing that we're gonna go over, we're on tanks, so you'll get a fast queue. The final thing that we're going to go over here is just, I feel like, especially in poke fights, so poke fights being not when the fight is fully happening, right, where you're right on top of people, like right here, right, and everyone's fighting. Poke fights just where you're sitting in the back here and you're just, the fight's almost starting, right? I feel like in poke fights, you're not damaging enough. It seems like you're focusing most of your attention onto your bubbles or something else, and then it just means that we're not really left-clicking or right-clicking at all, very frequently at all. We're kind of we're doing it very infrequently. So just make sure that even if we're looking for bubbles, we're still spam damaging, right? Our focus doesn't have to be on damage, right? We can still put most of our mental energy into making sure that we're getting these bubbles off, but we can still be spamming in while we're bubbling, right? We don't have to take any pauses for it. So just make sure that you're not pausing your shooting and you're consistently damaging, because especially in the poke fights, it felt like you weren't doing enough. Alrighty, so you can go ahead and look to get into another game, and then this game I'll be a little bit more vocal in reminding you when and when not to do things.
All right. Yeah, not a lot of opportunity in the game that I played to show or anything with ult usage. There was that one that I totally but other than that, I don't actually remember.
Yep. I forgot. Yeah, with the ultimates, I think the big thing I was going to say, I forgot to mention, it was just make sure you don't hold on to them. You want to make sure that you're using them. Yeah,
that's a problem for me.
Essentially, when it comes to any ultimate in the game, you want to be looking to use it as long as first off, early in the fights, right? Or always try to do it at the very beginning of a fight. But secondly, is you use it the fight that you get it, as long as the fight has not been won or lost yet, right? As long as we haven't seen that somebody's won or somebody's lost it, it's even-ish. We want to look to use our ultimates, because that will mean that you're now charging up your another ultimate, right? Because if we hold, I think on attack, we held onto our ult for a couple fights in a row. In that time, we could have gotten a second grab, or maybe even a third grab, right? So we can charge more ultimates, and then on top of that, you know, the more ultimates we're getting out, the more damage we're getting, kills we're getting, and grab is a very, very powerful ultimate, so we want to be looking to use it as frequently as we can, not holding on to it, because then we don't get nearly as much value out of it.
Yeah, I'm not always waiting for, like, trying to get a 6-man grab. I'm usually waiting for pairing with an ult, and I think there's for not.
A lot of the time you can go with even without a pair. It's a good. I think that's a really good idea to look for pairs, but you don't want to hesitate on using it just because you don't have one. It's more like if you do have one, you mention it, you say it to your teammates, you try to communicate it. So like if you have Grab Dragon, Grab Pulse, Grab Tire, Grab Blade, right? There's a ton of combos that can combo with Grab. So you just say, hey, let's Grab Pulse this fight. right?
Mm.
But you don't have, if you don't have pulse, and pulse is at 0%, you don't have to save grav for the pulse, right? Because it does have a lot of potential, even on its own, using grav a lot of the time.
Right. Yeah. I'm trying to get better about like using it when I just think it'll make an impact, but I'm still hesitant to use it when it's like there's no ult to pair with, and I'm at like really low charge.
Mhm.
I don't know where the line is that it still makes sense to use.
It depends. When you're low energy, it depends on how many teammates you have around that can follow up on it.
Yeah.
If you have a bunch of teammates who can see it and can shoot into it, then don't even worry about using when you're 0 energy.
Gotcha.
If none of your teammates can follow up on it, then you need to have energy for it. And make sure you're looking to use bubbles right about now. You're just trying to maintain our energy, push up the choke, and just do the same thing we did last time. Okay. Good bubbles.
Get in there.
Alright, right now we're up a pick. We don't want to push too far in because it's only up 1. But we can just send some right clicks in. Yeah, we just want to be farming.
Hit me.
Very good bubbles. Don't peek too far left, right? Stay a little bit closer to the right side wall.
Barriers on you.
Right now we're at 100 energy, so every bubble now is just being used defensively.
Best shot.
We go in super aggro. We have a pick. We have shatter. Still pushing aggro, right? Aggro. Even now. You can go all the way to your spawn as long if you're like up 3 like that. Yep, now you can back up. Yeah, that's good.
I can't believe I missed that name.
And right now we're pressing tab, checking do we have anything to combo with grab.
Yeah, my bad, man.
Don't go back.
Fair right side.
Fuck, my bad.
I'm gonna drop.
You want me to you want the juice?
Once they get in that
Yeah, I feel
choke,
like
we're
I
looking for
could-
it.
Огонь по готовности.
Ooh, yeah, okay. I can't tell if I used my ult before theirs. I think I did.
You did.
So yeah.
You're in silver, so we weren't worried too much about that. That's like complex of where like when you're a higher rank you can communicate that, but don't worry too much about that for now.
Yeah, I actually am usually very vocal in team voice. Now I'm kind of well on the back burner,
Maintain your
obviously.
energy right now, right? Just keep it up. Good job. But we're high energy, so make sure with Ryan bubble, like your personal projected, right? You're using that when it's needed.
Right, as I completely don't do that. Okay.
Cover my shield, cover my shield. I got no shield.
Максимум charge.
Okay, aggro, we're up 1, we're up 2. Alright, we can get aggro. We almost have our. Oh.
Maximum charge.
Okay, target priority. Make sure that you're focusing supports and DPS over tanks, as tanks are super difficult to kill. And if you have equal opportunity to go for somebody else, you go for somebody else.
Mm.
Alright, because Ana just pocketed her through your damage. So focus Ana first, and then you don't have that problem. Okay, we're coming up on grab here, so make sure we're paying attention to that.
Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Back off that eye, back off that eye. Alright, I got no shield, I got no shield.
Oh. Damn.
Okay, we have grab here, so we're just looking to use it right as they reach choke.
Nice ass.
We could probably stop them from getting the point even.
Yeah.
So with this grab, the biggest thing, grab ball here.
Огонь по готовности.
Oh, God. Yeah, I should have used it a bit more aggressively there.
No, he got me, he got me. He got me.
Barrier activated.
Yeah, so the idea there is that they're coming in with a ton of ults, right? And they're gonna pretty much win that fight because you only have one grab. So the best choice that we could have made there would have been to try to stop them from touching, right? So
Yeah. Yeah, that theory is exactly what I was trying to do. I should have just
Yep.
been faster about it.
yeah, just a 1
I think
second
I was,
delay.
Yeah. I think I was trying to time it like while they were there, but there's no reason I couldn't have thrown it out earlier.
Ball mid.
Here right now, we're just main focus is our energy.
Oh.
That's a nice thing.
That's more like it.
Little far forwards there.
Oh, sorry, man. I tried to heal you.
Oh, they got double hits, guys. It's gonna be hard.
Yeah, no.
Left side. Somebody on point, somebody on point.
Hey, I need help on point. There's a creep. There's two on point. I need help. They're gonna get it.
Give me your best shot.
Calling with mortality.
Hey, focus soldier left, soldier left.
Okay, we're standing on the open right now. Make sure we're looking to get behind cover. Okay, so there we just stood straight on point. Used the pillars on those on the kind of bridge to point, back up to the kind of to your spawn area where you have some more cover and high ground to work with.
Mm.
Go. Just a scratch.
So there it's like I need to contest. So I just ran onto the point.
Zarya usually isn't a great contest character. If you don't have ult or you're not close to ultimate, and the reason why you don't want to Zarya is because she has a charge up time in comparison to other characters, right? If you're at 0 energy, you do nothing, and therefore you're not really going to be able to do anything with Zarya right as you're coming out of spawn. So if you're trying to stall, you might be a lot better off trying to character like Wrecking Ball, Diva, Monkey, especially Wrecking Ball, I'd probably say is the best one that you should probably just instantly swap to because you can stall points super easily with him and get out really fast, whereas in Zarya, it's going to be a lot slower. It's going to mean that you have to have that charge up time with your bubbles.
Right. Okay. So you just would have swapped characters in that situation.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Make sure at the very beginning of games you're paying attention to your team comp as it's going to dictate. We're not going to talk too much about this, but especially the higher up you go, this is going to dictate how you're playing. The big thing you need to pay attention to here is the fact that you have a sim, right? That means that we're going for a TP play probably. So you just pay attention to if your team is all wanting to go in it through the TP.
All right.
Hello.
You hard
Yeah,
can't
and you can't. They gotta recharge, and then place your turrets on the point.
One.
Go right.
Commencing. Capture objective A.
We strike
Dang.
as one.
I'm putting my shield and down in 3, 2, 1.
Alright, TPOs, you got TPOs.
Wait.
TPOs.
Yeah, I made it.
Oy.
Fuck this right now.
Objective must be ours.
That took a while to set up.
Yep. Runs, TPs are fun.
You're all by yourself there.
Век живи,
Depression.
век учись.
And get fucked by the soldier in the ass. Oh.
Alright, that's not gonna work.
You don't have to go on point. You can go like top left, bottom right.
Give me your best shot.
Okay, let me get some charge. Let me just take some.
Lose cover. Lock on my target. Barrier activated. Go.
Hey, I think we need more DPS.
You can switch
They don't
up.
have shield. We should just walk in.
Alright,
Oh,
there.
I should have bubbled.
Yeah, try to do your best to get out with energy. I think you died right before you got it, but there, if you don't see they have a Reinhardt, just be careful of Reinhardt being behind you, right? Gotta pay attention to where their, all their players are at. If they're missing a player, if we didn't kill them, they're somewhere.
Uh-huh.
I got slammed in 20.
Gotta get the energy online so we can actually do some
I
stuff.
got slammed with 30. Slam soon.
Gotta get out of those mines.
Window.
Ooh.
It's okay, let them burn all the ults. Let them burn all the ults.
Okay, that was bad.
Yep. The thing is when you're pushing through choke and you're using bubble kind of for the energy first, that means that you're going in aggressively when you don't have bubble, right? Or bubbles in general. So you also got cut off by mines. There would probably be better to try to just back up and wait till mines go away to try to push, not push in when they mine.
Got it. I didn't think backing up was an option with the mines, but oh.
Hey, Ryan behind.
I've got you in my sights.
Okay.
I'm coming.
Soldier?
Hey, go through the.
Oh,
About to score.
They asked for.
Get in there.
Okay.
Back slow, back slow.
Barrier activated.
On point, Lucio.
Ball,
Don't get booed, don't get booed, don't get booed.
He echoes 1 HP. I promise you, he's 1 HP.
Alright, so biggest problem there on the first point was that we kept dying consistently, and that meant we were never able to get energy up, and then that meant we didn't even get a grab for like 3 minutes, right?
Yeah.
That means when you don't get a grab for 3 minutes, that's telling you either your big thing is you're just not doing enough damage. So stay alive longer, get more energy in, look to do more damage, and then that means that we can maybe even break through with a grab, right? If we feel like we can't break through just off of getting kills, we can combo with a grab.
Oh, we're even.
You're still even here. You're up 1. You can still look to win that.
Mortality.
Oh, come on.
Огонь по готовности.
Come on. Oh my god.
That was a beat. Stay alive.
Okay. Energy there was a problem. Misused bubbles, staying at 10 energy the whole time, right? Very big difference between 10 energy Zarya and 100 energy Zarya, right? You yourself know the difference. You can feel the difference.
Yeah.
Therefore, when we're going into fights and we end up with 0 energy, you can very easily tell the mistake was that we just didn't have any energy.
That solo grab on the ball. What was your read on that?
Usually you're gonna want to go for more than just one. If he's the only person there, you can just do him. But I think it'd be better saved for when there's actually 2 people.
My secret?
I could die here.
Right, so you can solo grab if you're solo grabbing a nano blade, if you're solo grabbing a primaling monkey, but if it's just a regular person, it's not going to really get much value. You can grab people when they're ulting, that's a good move, but other than that, you want at least 2 people.
Just die right now.
Oof.
Yeah, right now we're just trying to maintain energy, so if we can poke at them and make them look at us, that's going to be really good.
Oh, that was dumb. Guess we're going main.
Barrier activated. That tickles.
Echo, and Genji on me.
Make sure you're not walking ahead of your Ryan too frequently. That should only be happening if you're just looking to go ahead of him with a bubble. But if you're pushing ahead of him, and that means you can't get bubbles on him, that means you can't use his shield.
Oof.
What, dude?
I am
You guys hiding, bruh.
I'm behind.
ready for
Winnable, we're even. We're up one.
Okay, don't waltz straight on the point. Look to stick more
Yeah.
towards the edges of point, right? Because there's a lot more cover at the edges of point, like left, right, back, front, right? If you're directly on point, there's absolutely nothing, which just means that, yeah, you're high energy, you can do a lot of damage, but you just get shredded. So, big mistake there, and consistently so far through this game, is that we just keep putting ourselves in positions where we're dying over and over and over again. So survivability is a big one so far this game.
Mm.
get in there.
So Discord. Oh, right behind.
Oh, still doing it. Okay. Just gonna retreat back to the lanterns.
Circuits engaged. Zarya.
Okay.
Огонь по готовности.
Ooh, fire at will, fire at will.
Oh, Genji, I got the
Promise.
Okay, so I don't think my team was really around to do anything about that.
Yeah, it was final fight. If you don't, I think that they were all. It looked like they were all below ground, so we could have maybe waited an extra couple of seconds, but I think the timing was okay.
I must have ult.
Reaper 1, Reaper 1, Reaper 1, Reaper 1. Lucio Discord, Lucio Discord. Lucio 1 HP. Ball Discord, hack.
Focus around, focus around, focus around.
9-1, 9-1. They got Will top left. Oh, back
Right, so in that instance, like, if you don't feel like you have anything to any teammates to follow up with you, and you have 20 seconds left, just wait, try to do your best to survive and wait that extra 20 seconds, right? You don't need to be on point for another 20 seconds, you don't need to be rushing it. Try to wait until you have your team to be able to follow up with you.
You grab the Bastion now?
On Bastion? Oh, let's go Bastion.
Yeah. You grab the Bastion. I don't want to play right. I don't want to play right.
Okay.
How's my charge, Ashley? Right.
The fuck?
Together, we are strong.
Is that it?
Hello there.
Hey.
There's nothing I haven't seen before.
Someone like
Stick together.
cut in
We
something.
will complete our mission.
Hello.
I don't know, bro. That's a background sound, not me though. I hear that too.
Yeah, I think I'll buy it's like at a carpenter.
I think our bar's playing outside, man.
He's playing in the woods next to like the grizzly bear.
I assume you're not saying anything, but if you are, the microphone's not done.
I am not.
We're here on point, right? On point.
Yeah,
They could
stay
TP,
on focus,
they
they're
could
probably gonna
TP.
do some
Here.
Yeah, right here. And then if they push up a lot, it's one corner.
Attackers defend objective A.
We strike as one.
Now we're holding this bitch down.
Mas, yung kadangin.
Fucking dying already. Oh, they know. Watch the right, top, Genji.
I recommend moving behind my body.
Bring it. Charging up.
Watch the flank on Genji.
And push up.
Good, you go to the left,
And
you go to the left.
plenty of juice.
You are advised.
You're covered.
Be honest.
This will help.
Genji.
60
heal.
seconds remaining.
Dead.
That's actually a huge pick.
Oof.
Gonna try to
Yeah,
charge
where they at?
Okay, I'm way in the middle. Nowhere.
Oh, they didn't building again.
Make sure you reload whenever you get like kind of lulls in time. I think you've been pretty good with that. Just, you know, even if it's for like a second where you just don't have anything to shoot at, that's just a good situation to reload.
Yeah.
If there's-
Actually, one of my problems is I reload too frequently.
Point B. They need to get point A first.
I haven't seen too much of that.
No, they gotta get point A.
Ready for battle.
Oh yeah, it's a draw.
He's not right.
You get awareness.
Oh, shit, I'm
Body
getting
blocking, body
I'm
blocking.
body blocking.
Oh, big.
Thank you. Big cock.
10
Big cock.
seconds.
You got big cock, bigger brain.
Nice ult.
Okay, we might be fucked.
Oh, we good.
Alright, so not much to read off of that. I'm sorry I should have mentioned it, but Zarya is not fantastic with that comp or with that pair. Would you say that you're more of like a one-trick Zarya, or do you like to kind of flex to some other heroes once in a while?
Absolutely not one trick. I've just been trying to play her a lot.
So,
because I think she's a bit easier to climb with.
Yeah.
But
in an instance like that, you'd probably find a lot more success out of a character like Sigma or Roadhog or a longer range character. Zarya doesn't pair too well with that, first off, because the composition is the opposite of what her playstyle is. Zarya is what you call a brawl character, so she likes to be at close ranges to stuff, and when you're playing a Bastion comp, you're playing a very, very far away comp that's trying to play very slow, and Zarya wants to play fast and close. The other thing is that when you're playing up with a kind of Orisa as your secondary tank, it becomes very difficult to get projected bubbles off, as you know, no one's ever gonna push past the shield, right? And Orisa's not gonna really drop it for much. So, you just saw how like you got very low energy, and that's not even necessarily your fault. It's more like the composition is just very, very poor, and it's very difficult to get energy in a composition like that because you can't really maintain it too well. So that's just a situation where playing a different character might get you a lot more value. Sigma would probably be the best one to play there, because he has an extra shield for the Bastion and he has longer range. And then Hog would also be pretty decent because again, longer range. So yep, those two would be pretty good. We have 7 minutes left, so I don't think we'd have time for a. We probably won't have time for another match, so why don't we do a recap here real quick, and then we can get to the questions and the wrap up at the end there.
Sounds good.
So I'm just streaming again. This is just to demonstrate some of the things we talked about, and just go around the block again. Basically with Zarya, kind of big. We'll go over the main points as well, like the number one things to work on. Probably number one thing to work on is just again, awareness of whether or not you're winning and losing in aggression. Actually, you know what? Because you actually did a lot better with that on the second round, we're going to swap it up. That's no longer number one. I think your number one issue, especially in the last game you had, was that we ended up dying way too frequently, and that comes from a mixture of positioning and then on top of that, knowing whether or not, like, kind of your aggression levels. So your number one thing I'll probably say is going to be positioning and making sure that you're not getting too aggressive and being in good position, good spots, because a lot of the time we ended up dying and we lost all our energy, and that resets us back to 0 and means that we're taking longer to charge our ult. We have less energy to do stuff with. Just in general, more times you're dying means the less you're playing, right? If we can cut down, let's say 10 deaths, right? Let's just throw out a number. Let's say we have an average of 10 deaths per game, right? Each death, right, is 10 seconds of respawn time and 10 seconds to walk back from spawn. And if we, let's say, cut out 3 whole deaths out of our gameplay, that's roughly a minute more of time that you're playing, right? So we just want to make sure that we're cutting out as many deaths as we can, because we're going to be doing a lot more, especially on a character like Zarya. On Zarya, it's extra important, because on Zarya, you rely on energy, and when you die, you lose all that energy. So we got to make sure that we're trying to maintain that by staying alive as long as possible. So just really work on the deaths, make sure we're keeping good positioning, standing next to cover, not standing out in the open. Second thing is going to be making sure that we're paying attention to whether or not we're winning or losing fights, right? Because that's going to affect your aggression, when you're pushing up, when you're backing up, and then that is going to be another thing that will impact if you're dying or not, and if you're capitalizing on stuff. As sometimes we're pushing forward when we shouldn't be, and sometimes we're playing too passive when we should be pushing forwards. So that's probably number 2 thing to focus on. Bubbles, very, very good. We're getting good bubbles off. I think we were also using them more frequently in the second round, in the second game, so that was really good. So I'm not even gonna. I don't know if that would even be qualified for number 3. So really good bubble usage. Just I think the biggest thing when it comes to energy was just that we keep losing it because of how frequently we're dying. Third thing, let's see, what would be number 3 here? Probably. Because our mechanics are right. Maybe like our ultimate usage. Just making sure we're timing it better, using it at right times. It's a very powerful ultimate, so make sure that we're looking to use it as often as we get it, as long as the fight's not won or lost. But then at the same time, we're also getting as many people as we can in it, because there's a few times, like first time we used it, or on defense when we used it, we ended up missing the ball. The second time we solo grabbed the ball. Third time we used it when we were kind of trying to stall and there's like 20 seconds left, we ended up using it too fast, and when our team couldn't really follow up on it. So we want to make sure that we're looking to better time it, so where we're getting at least 2 people in it, we're getting the right people in it, and we're also using it when our team can follow up with us, especially when we're not 100 energy and they have shields and stuff like that. Now, other kind of minor points we talked about, just make sure you're reloading every time you get the opportunity to. We talked about the range at which you use right click and left click. make sure damaging more often in poke fights, and I think I did see us do a lot more of that. And on top of that, I saw us poking for energy a lot more in between fights, so that was really good on the second round. Besides that, I think those are a lot of the main points, and then all the side points you'll be able to just go back and watch the recording if you need to, or just remember them as they come up in your gameplay. Do you have any questions about anything that we've gone over?
I don't think I have any specific questions. Let me see if I can walk back through the last game, see if there's anything that I did have particular questions on.